Welcome viewers. We are today discussing capacity planning, which is a unit 9 of your course production management, that is BME 013, and I am your course coordinator Dr. Ashish Agarwal from School of Engineering and Technology, IGNOU. When we discuss about the capacity planning, it is very important that we should know the sequence of the activities. First, through forecasting, we have a customer demand. Then, through aggregate planning, we have a production planning. And then finally, with MRP and capacity planning, we decide that what are the capacity which is required at our end. The management must plan the capacity of its process after deciding what products or services should be offered and how they should be made. Capacity means the maximum rate of output for a process. Under the capacity planning, operation manager should have the capacity or should have the decision-making capacity to cope up with the present and the future demand. Otherwise, organization will miss the chance of the growth and the profit. Under the capacity planning, there are basically two levels. First is long-term capacity plan and second one is short-term capacity plan. Under the short-term capacity plan, we deals with the investment in new facilities, new equipment, and these plans extend at least up to 2 years in the future. Most of the Indian firms invest more than 600 billions yearly in a new plant or equipment. Similarly, service industry accounts for more than 68% of total investment. Such type of large investment requires very good management participation and approval because they cannot be reversed. Short-term capacity plan focus on the workforce size, overtime budget, inventories, and other type of decision that we explore in later chapters or later video sessions. Why the capacity planning is important? Capacity planning is important for accounting because this prepares the accounting information needed to estimate the capacity expansion decision. In case of finance, again, this performs a financial analysis of proposal of capacity expansion investment and raises the fund to support them. Human resources, it hires and trains the employees to sustain the capacity plans. Management information system, it designs the database used in determining the work standard that help in calculating the capacity gaps if exist in the existing plan. Then the most important is marketing. It provides the demand forecast for identifying the capacity gaps. Then comes the operation. It selects the capacity strategies that provide the capacity levels to meet the future demand most effectively. And then purchasing. It obtains the outside capacity that is to be outsourced. Capacity planning basically is a central idea behind the success of any organization in long run. While choosing the capacity strategy, the manager have to consider certain things in their mind. That is, how much of the cushion is needed to handle the variable or the uncertain demand. Under the capacity plan, we also ask a question: should we expand the capacity before the demand, or is we have to wait until the demand is more certain? A structural or logical approach is therefore needed to reply all these queries, thereby developing a capacity strategy appropriate for each situation. So in today's session, we are going to learn the measures of capacity, how you will measure the capacity. We will also learn theory of constraint, though it will be also covered in a separate session. Then we will discuss economies and the diseconomies of scale in case of your capacity planning. The first important area under the capacity planning is the measure of capacity. Single measure is not applicable in all type of situation. A retailer measures capacity as a annual sales rupees generated per square meter. Similarly, an aeroplane or airport authority measures the capacity as available seat kilometer per month. In general, capacity is expressed either in one of the two ways. The first important is your output measure. These are usual choice for high volume processes. If a plant produces only a single item, example single type of vehicle, the measuring of capacity is very easy. However, many times this may not be the case, and the plant may be producing different type of products. For example, just if you take any car, they are not producing only one segment. There may be the economical car segment, medium class segment, higher class segment, and the luxury car. Beside that, there may be the heavy duty vehicle. So all these are the different. Then what will be the output measure? We will decide that if it is a 800 cc, we will say it is a 0.8 unit of passenger car. If it is Wagoner type of we will say 1 unit. If it is Ritz type or Swift, we will say 1.2. And similarly, for a higher class, even luxury class, we can say 2 unit. So the car manufacturer will say that they are going to manufacture so many units of passenger car. They will not say that economical car so much, medium car so much, higher cost, higher car so much. No, they will simply say this much unit of passenger car. Under the output measure, as the amount of customization and variety in the product mix becomes too much, output-based capacity measure becomes less useful, as I have quoted one example of the passenger car. Output measures are best in use when the firm produces relatively small number of standardized products and services, or when applied to individual processes within the overall firm. Another type of measure is input measure. These are the usual choice for the low volume and the flexible process. Here I will just give you one example. In a photocopy shop machine, the capacity can be measured as a machine hours or the number of machines. Just like product mix have a complicated the output capacity measure, same can complicate the input measure. That means if we have a multiple product, even in case of input, then input measure will also become more complicated. Demand is important, and which is invariably expressed as the output rate, must be converted into an output measure. After making the conversion, a manager can compare the demand requirement and capacity on equipment basis. Under the capacity planning, an important term which comes is a utilization. Capacity planning requires knowledge of current capacity of a process and its utilization. Therefore, utilization is the degree to which the equipment, space or labor is currently being used. If you want to expressed in terms of a mathematics or mathematically, then utilization is ratio of average output rate divided by the maximum capacity rate, and the ratio is multiplied by 100, so we get the percent utilization. Utilization is as a average output rate, and the capacity must be measured in the same term, like in terms of time, in terms of customer, in terms of units, or in terms of rupees. Utilization rate also indicate the need for adding the extra capacity or eliminating the unneeded or unrequired capacity. We have two terms that is required to define the maximum capacity. The first one is called as a peak capacity. Peak capacity means the maximum output that a process or a facility can achieve under ideal condition, that is also known as peak capacity. That means if all the things goes well, then how much maximum can be produced, that is known as peak capacity. That means our machine is running good, our worker is good and efficient, then all the materials are quality material, then what output we will achieve, that is called the peak capacity. When the capacity is measured relative to the equipment alone, then the appropriate measure is called as a rated capacity, because it is relative with terms of equipment only. Peak capacity can be sustained for only a small time interval, as a few hours in a day or a few days in a month. For example, if the production starts from the morning, as an industrial engineer, you must appreciate that the worker will take time to gain the pace. After certain period, he will gain the pace, and at that time he will go for the peak capacity or the maximum capacity. After that, due to fatigue, due to monotony nature, the capacity will come down. Under the peak capacity, a process reaches it by using a marginal method of production, such as excessive overtime, extra shift, overstaffing, and subcontracting. So these are the four types of alternatives by which we can achieve the peak capacity beside the short-term measure which we used to take for achieving the peak capacity. Although these can help with the temporary peak, these options cannot be sustained for a long. For example, if our demand is not going to be fulfilled, we will go for overtime, we will go for extra shift, we will go for overstaffing. Even we can go for make and buy or the buy decision, that is subcontracting, so that we can be able to meet the timeline. Generally, employees do not want to work excessively for a longer period of time. The premium of overtime and the excessive work is large for the firm. Sometimes the quality also drops. If you force the workers for extra time, for overtime, then definitely quality will suffer. Second important type of capacity is the effective capacity. The maximum output that a process or a firm can sustain under a normal operative condition is called as a effective capacity. When we are going for a ideal capacity or ideal conditions, then we got the peak capacity. When under the normal operative condition, we will get the effective capacity. That means effective capacity means or implies one or 3-shift operation depending on the firm. That means in a normal course, any factory has normally 1 shift or 2 shift or 3 shift. So these are the normal condition. For this reason, the capacity is defined as the greatest level of output the firm can reasonably sustain by employing realistic employees, schedules and equipment currently in place. When the firm is running close to the peak capacity, it can make minimal profit or can lose many despite of high level of sales. So one should understand that it is easy to achieve the peak capacity, but there are some consequences when we achieve the peak capacity by overstuffing or by overtime. If we go for one example, if the fabrication department of engine manufacturer operated under the ideal condition, it produces 100 engines per day. Management believes that the maximum output rate of 45 engines per day can be sustained economically over a long period of time. The currently department is producing an average of 50 engines per day. So now we have to calculate the utilization of department relative to the peak capacity and the effective capacity. So remember, 100 engines per day is the peak capacity and the effective capacity is either 45 or 50. That we will see with the help of our calculation what is the utilization of the department. So there are two different utilization measures. The first one is utilization peak. We have a 50 divided by 100, so we are using only 50%. Another case, when we have a effective, then average output is 50, effective capacity is 50, so it is 111% utilization of the capacity. We were discussing about how to increase the maximum capacity, because that is the interest of any top management. Because every time management wants to go for the peak capacity. Suppose we are working in a effective capacity. Now, how you will go from effective capacity to the maximum capacity? For performing most of the operations, multiple processes are involved and also their effective capacities are not identical. This is one situation. The system's output is depreciated by the bottleneck operation. Bottleneck operation is the operation having the lowest effective capacity in the process. I will show you with the help of a figure. The process where operation 2 is a bottleneck and that limits the output of the system to be 100 units per hour. Now this, just see the upper figure or the topmost figure, you will find there is a bottleneck in between. While in case of a lower, the whole process is very smooth. So the bottleneck process always try to hinder to achieve the maximum capacity. So we have to control that bottleneck portion of the process. Subjecting to this effect, the fastest process can produce only as fast as the slowest operation. You just appreciate this thing, that if the fastest operation is producing 10 items per hour and the slowest process is producing 2 items per hour, then the speed will only be 2 items, because Other items has to wait because the slowest operation cannot speed up its process, and that is why it is called the bottleneck process. We will also show, we have shown through figure 1b where all the operations are well balanced, or in other words we can say every operation is a bottleneck. Hence the capacity of the process can be enhanced by just increasing the capacity of the bottleneck operation. We have also seen that if we are going to increase the capacity of operation 2, which is a bottleneck, without disturbing the operation capacity at point 1 and 3, then we can increase the total output capacity. When the capacity of second operation reaches to 300 per hour, then for increasing the total capacity, all the 3 operations must be expanded. Here I just want to clear one thing, that when we are increasing the capacity of bottleneck, that should be synchronized with other operations also. Now we will just see what is theory of constraint. There will be a separate video session on theory of constraint, but since theory of constraint is very important topic in capacity planning, that is why we are taking a brief or the short of that theory of constraint. Under the theory of constraint, this long-term capacity expansion are not only the solution to ease the bottleneck. Short-term operation during the peak periods are hiring the temporary persons, just like temporary employment, or we should hire the part-time employees, we should outsource. These are some of the alternative which are short-term actions. The managers are required to discover other alternatives to increase the effective capacity and the utilization at the bottlenecks without experiencing the higher cost or the poor service level that are common while maintaining the output rate at the peak capacity. And here you will appreciate or you will recall that we have also pointed out whenever we want to increase the effective capacity, there are chances of lowering the quality of the product or the item. Here, when we are going for increasing the maximum capacity, this can be resolved by if we carefully monitor the short-term schedule. We should keep the bottleneck resources as busy as possible. That means if the bottleneck are set for 5, then we should not lower down the capacity. We should always make them busy by giving them 5, or we are getting the 5 units per hour. The common practice adopted by the managers in this situation is to minimize the time lost at bottlenecks because the jobs or the customer are delayed at the upstream operation in the process, or because the necessary material is temporarily available, or it is not available, it is then there is a problem in the bottleneck operation. So one should avoid and one should try to exploit the maximum capacity of the bottleneck operation. Here another important point which I want to mention, they should also minimize the unproductive time taken for the setup, which is a changing over from one product to another product or one service to another service, because setup time is another a time consuming time. So one should prepare itself or the machine for the changeover. When the changeovers are made at a bottleneck operation, the number of unit or the customer process before the next changeover should be large compared to the number processed at less critical operation. Therefore, maximizing the number processed per setup means there will be a fewer setup per year, and thus less time will be lost in the setup. If we talk about the financial performance, it will be increased if we develop the schedule by mainly focusing the bottleneck. Theory of constant or drum buffer rope method, it is also called drum buffer rope method, is a way available to management that focuses on all types of blockage or the obstacle that are in the way of achieving maximum flow of value added funds or the sales less sales discount and the variable cost. That means whatever we are going to achieve from the bottleneck operation, that should be given at a top priority. If we talk about the blockage or impediments, they must be overloaded. If we say overloaded, that means in other words, they should not be underloaded. That if the capacity is 100, it should run with a 100 capacity. Whether it is a new entry, whether it is a new product development, or whether it is a change in manufacturing operation, we should always consider and we should look at that the blockage or impediment should not be underloaded. The central idea of this theory is to focus on the blockage or the bottleneck to increase the throughput. That by increasing the flow of total value added funds, that is the throughput. If we are increasing the total flow, that means we are increasing the throughput. Therefore, the performance of overall system lies in the scheduling of the bottleneck. And it is very important to note that if we are managing the bottlenecks by properly scheduling them, we can maximize the throughput of our product or services in accordance with the promised completion date, which we have already promised with our client or our customer. For example, in the manufacturing of garden rakes involves joining of the bow to head. Head of the rake must be processed on blanking press, welded to bow, cleaned and attached to the handle to make the rack. It is packaged and finally shipped according to the delivery schedule. So here we have to find what is bottleneck and we should schedule them properly. The blockage or impediment must be overloaded, that we have already said, and the central idea behind it is that we have to give the total value added funds and we have to increase the throughput time. If the delivery commitment for all types of rakes for the next month show that the welder is loaded at 105% of its capacity, but the other process will be used at only 75% of the capacity. According to theory of constant, the welder is a bottleneck resource, whereas blanking, cleaning, handle attaching, packaging and shipping process are not the bottleneck resources. Therefore, the welding should be properly scheduled. Any idle time. First thing, there should not be any idle time at the welder end, and if there is any idle time, and that is the lost opportunity to generate the total value added funds or increasing the throughput time. In order to maximize the throughput of rake manufacturing system, manager should focus on the welder schedule, or in other words, the bottleneck schedule. How the theory of constant finds the application. We have put them in several steps. The first step is to identify the system bottleneck. If I take the example of rake manufacturing, the bottleneck is welder, because it is restricting the firm's ability to meet the shipping schedule and has the total value added funds. Second step, we should exploit the bottleneck. That means there is a need to develop a schedule that maximizes the throughput of the bottleneck. In case of rake example, there is a need to maximize the utilization at the end of welding while meeting the shipping commitment to the possible extent. Third important step is subordinate all other decisions to step 2. Now, if I recall the step 2, that is regarding the scheduling of the bottleneck. Now, whatever the decisions that are subordinating or they are subordinate actions with the welding, they should be properly handled. Resources that are not bottleneck should be scheduled to support the schedule of bottleneck, and they should not produce more than what it can easily handle. That suppose the welding machine can handle only 5, and if we are sending 7 items for welding, then it will weld 5 and the 2 will be act as a work in process. So there will always be time lost with the 2 items. Another important estimate or the step is alleviate the bottleneck. After scheduling, improvement in step 1 and 3 have been exhausted and the bottleneck is still a constraint to throughput, the management should consider increasing the capacity of the bottleneck. This is another alternative. If we tried all the source of action and we are not getting any success, then another important is to increasing the capacity of the bottleneck. For example, if welding is still a constant after exhausting the schedule improvement, consider increasing the capacity by adding another shift or by adding another welding machine. There are 2 alternatives. Either we can have another shift of 8 hours, so the same machine, same operator or the different operator will work for the another shift. Another alternative is we should buy another welding machine with another operator, so that we may have the extra capacity. We are discussing the different alternatives to tackle the bottleneck operation. The first alternative is scheduling. Second operation is increasing the capacity. And if we are not able to see all these actions, then the most important thing that the inertia should not come in handling the bottleneck. So therefore, action taken in step 3 and 4, we have to consider them, and they will improve the welder throughput and they may alter the loads on the other process. Another option is that even the system constant may have been shifted to another place, so that we should not get trouble from the bottleneck operation. Capacity planning is a very important topic which we have discussed in today's session. By making a planning for the capacity, we decide how much capacity we have and how much capacity we need to meet the customer demand. For example, if we are getting more customer demand, more capacity is required. And if we are getting less demand, then it is quite possible that our capacity will remain unutilized. We have discussed a term, utilization, in terms of average capacity and in terms of peak capacity or the effective capacity. We have learned about the peak capacity and the effective capacity. We have also gone through certain important aspect of theory of constant in this session, and the most important point is consideration of bottleneck. In every operation or in every process, we always get a bottleneck operation. Bottleneck operation makes the whole process slow. That means whatever be the speed of the bottleneck operation, that will be the speed of the overall operation. Therefore, it is required to handle the bottleneck operation carefully. We have discussed certain steps for handling the bottleneck operation. The first one is scheduling of the bottleneck operation. That means we have to give due consideration to the bottleneck operation, and we have to design them in a proper way so that they should never be underloaded. Second important alternative is that we have to go for buying another machine or another bottleneck alternative so that we can increase the capacity if our earlier alternative of scheduling does not work. In coming session, we will see what is the economies of scale, what is diseconomy of scale, how these two works together in capacity planning. Thank you.